Welcome back.
Thanks.
Yeah, we missed you last month. Did you see the live stream with Lyndon Brinks, Derek Niles, and Brandon Crumpiti?
I did. It was really great to be able to log into the YouTube account, which is youtube.com / @realgloss. Thank you. To finally watch an episode and not have to cringe at my own voice.
Oh, come on. You have a great voice. I bet you have a great sing. Why don't you sing us a song right now, and our viewers can use the comment section to tell you how great you are. Let's start with Back in Black by AC/DC.
Oh, I don't think that's a really good idea, Tim.
Why
Not
not?
because I don't want to scare off our visitors, but I was in band for a reason. I'm a very proud brass instrument player, and I think there's probably a copyright infringement concern there. So let's go with that's the concern
All
over
right.
anything else.
All right. Fair point. Fair point. Well, then speaking of voices, it's just going to be us this week or this month, I guess. No guests, but that's okay because we want just to focus on Seagull this month.
I think that's a great idea. And actually, it's probably really fitting because it's been almost 1 year exactly since we did our first live stream back in August of 2022.
Really?
It has. I know.
1 year of live streams. That's phenomenal. You and I have put out we've put out more content on YouTube than my mom.
That's fair. I mean, and can we count her content as our content too?
Yes, I think we
okay. Perfect. So, no, I think that's a great idea. There have been a lot of changes to Seagull this summer. And while we always try to touch on those during our user group live streams monthly, I think revisiting some of those big changes will really help our users just refresh them on what they are. And I know there's some small but really important changes that are going to happen over the hibernation season to Seagull for delighting our users next summer.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I have to admit, I'm pretty excited to give Seagull some time in the spotlight because we've developed some pretty great things over the summer. And some of those things were in direct response to user feedback. Just quick reminder, how do users provide feedback to us again? What's the best way? Apart from emailing support@gloss.org?
Yes, we asked them to use the feedback bar on the top of Seagull. And I will make sure I touch on that as I share some of the things that we've developed over the summer. So
that's right. That's right. The orange feedback bar right inside Seagull. So what else are we going to talk about this month?
So I propose that I cover the look back at Seagull from this summer. You can cover the look forward. And then if there's anything else that we missed in between or things that come up, we can cover that at the end.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's jump in. Perfect.
Great.
All right. So I'm going to make sure I can share my screen flawlessly because we've done this so many times. We're experts. So there's a number of things that we've done with Seagull. And one of the things that we heard, one of the items that was requested was an easy way to favorite stations. So as a quick reminder, we ask that if you're going to use favorites, or sorry, we won't ask. Some features require you to have a user account, so those settings can be saved to your preferences. And one of those is this favoriting option. So it's very easy to now favorite stations right from the map. So if you have a favorite lake or a little buoy, and if I have one in central Winnebago buoy, I really am fond of this. I can mark it as a favorite right from the screenshot as I'm looking at the data, lots of chlorophyll, lots of oxygen. And then one other feature that was built in was that if you only want to see your favorites, you can do that with one click right on the home screen. So really, really simple to be able to see your favorites at a glance. And if I zoom out, you can see my favorites around the Great Lakes. And don't forget Lake Superior. Also, as a reminder to what Tim said, that provide feedback button is right up here at the top. And it's super simple to send us an image and some text with what issues you're experiencing. So that is the first feature I wanted to cover. The second feature that we added was the windrows. So this is a really easy visual way to understand where the wind is coming from. In this example, the wind was coming from the southwest 30% of the time, and the south-southwest almost 30% of the time as well. So you read it and the wind is coming from direction, and hopefully people have asked for that, and we designed it, and we might be integrating it into some other parameters as well. So look for that when you check out the wind direction as you're checking out wind speed as well. And then another feature that we added was updating the particle animation. So if you remember, we have multiple map overlays that come from model data from the Great Lakes Operational Forecast System. And I think these features are some of the favorites of our users because we always get a lot of feedback on these. So you can see water current data and wind speeds. And I would say it was June, the particles were going a little bit slow and a little bit off grid. So there was a revamping done, and they now look beautiful and are really crisp with a lot more sprites. So you can get a lot more detail in here. There's also an easy way to add other filter layers on. So if you just care about Lake Superior, because it gets cut out of the map a lot, and you want to see all the stations, you can just click Lake Superior, and there it is. So that feature took us a little bit of time to get it just right because it's a lot of data that we're pulling in and transforming, but people really love this, and we hope that you guys continue to offer feedback and enjoy this feature that we've added in. The other features that we've added in include adding different plot types. So when you go to view data, and maybe I'll just keep sharing my screen for this, you can now see what's data versus what's a trend line. So two different ways to view this. As you go into the dive deeper page, it takes a second for it to load the historical data over the last 24 hours. And you can see up here, this is the default plot line. This is the trend lines only. And then if you want to see the data points, you can select the other one. And this is taking a lot longer than usual, probably because I'm trying to record to my screen. So that's disappointing. But it will get there, and I will go through the other things as this loads. We can also, as another feature that is included with an account, is parameter groupings or pinnings. So you can see it in the top right up here. If you really love air temperature, you can pin that, and it will always be at the top of a example or it will always be at the top of a platform if that is available. And then here again, just as I was saying, you can see the points, the data points exactly, or you can see the smooth trend lines depending on what your preference is for viewing. So the parameter pinning was a big one as well that, again, takes advantage of that user account that we hope you'll create to save those. And then the other last feature that we added in that I think is worth revisiting is the historical data uploads to the backend. So when data isn't always uploaded, or there's a bunch of older data that needs to be added in, so our database can make it accessible through Seagull for users, that's now really seamless to do. It wasn't straightforward before, and now it's a pretty easy process through the API. So I think I've covered, and not that kind of bulk barn, but very, very close in terms of bulk data. So bulk data, not bulk barn, which is similar to Costco or Sam's Club in the US, but I like the name bulk barn better. I think it gets to the point. There's no guessing around what you're getting there. Anyways, so those are, I think, the features that I wanted to touch on in terms of the look back over the last 4 to 5 months that we've added to Seagull. Tim, do you want to go over from here? Anything I missed about the look back?
Well, I think that's a phenomenal overview. Thank you, Shelby, for doing that. I mean, you've obviously been very busy to develop all those features and get them in Seagull.
I did it by myself. No. I shouldn't even joke about that. We had a phenomenal team of developers and in-house staff, and that helped really that made this. And I was responsible for testing. We also want to thank people who offered feedback and asked for things that we can make and integrate to make the platform what our users are looking for. So, but really, it's a big thanks to our product team and thanks going forward as well, since we're not done with them yet. There's a lot more that we want to do.
Okay. I know. Okay, well, let me share some of the stuff that's coming in Seagull. And we've talked about some of this stuff before. Let me just, there we go. Excellent. So the first big thing that I want to mention is platform comparison. Hopefully you can see that. So platform comparison, let's have to make this a little bit bigger. Oops, on the screen. Oh, I can't make it too much bigger, but platform comparison allows you to take different parameters across different platforms and then compare them against each other. So you can see this is just a screenshot that I wanted to share with you. We've shown this before, but should be within the next couple of weeks. So this is pretty exciting stuff to be able to do that. In this example, you can see that we've got water temperature from Port Sheldon, air temperature, dissolved oxygen, but we'll also be able to add data from different platforms. So we're pretty excited about platform comparison. Another big thing that's coming is omics data. Oops. Now, if you're not familiar with omics data, it's okay. Omics data is biological data. Biological data is instead of thinking of information at a macro level, like just what's going on in the lake, we can really get down into the details of what's happening with the water, the marine environment at a specific location, but at a chemical or biological sort of lens, I guess. Kind of more like a micro level, I suppose. We can't see this stuff, and so the water, you can see by the blue dots on this screen, these represent water sample locations. There's about 40 that we have. We have a bunch in Lake Erie, which is most of our focus at the beginning. And do you remember, Shelby, you probably remember back in February when we had Greg Dick from Seagull join us, and he was talking about omics data?
Yeah.
That's right. And that was really a learning curve for me. I mean, you have a PhD in oceanography, I think, or marine science. I barely graduated high school. I can hardly spell biological, let alone understand what it means. So you probably understand this stuff more than me. But safe to say that there's lots of our users that are super interested in this type of information. So we've decided we'd work with Seagull quite closely to add this layer into Seagull. And you can see on the left-hand side is a map overlay. We've got our water temperature, water current, wind speed. We also have omics data now. And then omics data is all based on sample locations over a period of time. This is not real-time data. Part of that is because the data is collected, like physically, there's a sample taken in the water by humans or machines, and potentially in the future by robots. And then all that data is sent back to the lab, and it's data analysis is done on it, and then it's aggregated and put forward into a system like Seagull so that we can portray that back to our users. So these are just examples here that we've got listed of the different types of things, whether it's dissolved oxygen or cyanobin or microcysts, all kinds of. Shelby, do you know some of the other examples of the types of things you could see with omics data, some other fancy words?
Yeah, absolutely. So they'll have counts of cells or abundance, like relative abundances. You can see what's most prominent as well as other types. So the big one that everyone knows, I think Tim, you said this, was microcystis. That's the big one. But there's also anabina or pseudobina, and I'm trying to think of the other big thing. There was a couple other features that they're really excited about. But anyways, it'll be great to explore and hopefully learn a little bit, as well as understand more of the health of Lake Erie.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And you mentioned a few things. Lake Erie, and part of the reason for that is because we're really taking a focus on harmful algae blooms. This is the HABs data sets or problem that we have in Lake Erie. And so that's why we're starting with this. And we'll see how it goes with our users, you viewers. If you're interested in this and we get a lot of use and feedback that's positive, then we'll probably add more of this type of data, biological data, into Seagull that we can expose and then make available to you. This is just an example of what would happen if you clicked on a single sample site. So this gives you a bit of an overview of what's going on, the aggregate data at that sample site. And then if you want to dive in a little bit deeper in what it looks like from a user experience, this is what's going to happen here. This is aggregate over time. As I said, it's not real-time data. This is analysis that's done. And so if you wanted to look at a particular station, in this case, here's the example, 123, 123, you can see it in the upper left. It also gives you the location, and then you can see the years we've got across the bottom there. So this represents in 2015, 2016, 18, and 18 again, we've got 6 samples that were taken at those locations, and you can see the different aggregations of these parameters or these biological data that were captured inside each sample. And so these are aggregates, and so if you're familiar with reading this type of data, this makes sense to you. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me. That's okay. But what is very interesting to scientists and researchers as well is that we can also overlay other parameters. So in this example, you can see that we've overlaid water temperature at this location over time. So you can see the type of trends that are happening with the biological data relative to something else. And so seeing data in context against other data is super important for understanding the Great Lakes. Another big thing that's coming to Seagull is, let me just, there we go, is nested Seagull. Now, many of you might not be familiar with nested Seagull. So a nested Seagull is kind of like your own version of Seagull, that you have your own brand on it, your own colors, and even your own platform. So in this case, we work closely with University of Windsor Rayon, and they've got a number of platforms in the Great Lakes, in Lake Erie specifically. And this is their site, actually. So you can find it on the University of Windsor Rayon site. It's not exposed actually directly through the Seagull site, but it is Seagull running on the back end, and then it's their sort of interface and colors and logos and everything on the front end, or through the part that you see. Now, one thing that Rayon asked us, and this is what we love about user feedback, is when they go to their version of Seagull, their nested Seagull, they always saw the entire Great Lakes, but all of their platforms really just exist in Lake Erie or in the region around Rayon and the University of Windsor. So we've changed it so that when their users now go into their version of Seagull, they actually just see the extent of the platforms that they have. And this is a big addition that we're coming to Nested Seagull, in addition to some other features that are coming for Nested Seagull. If you're interested in your own version of Seagull, your own Nested Seagull, get in touch with us, support@gloss.org, and we can certainly chat with you about how to do that. It's actually not that hard. We did this intentionally so we'd have the same code base, but a different user experience for people who have their own platforms and they just want their users to interact with their platforms, or maybe to see stuff that not everybody else gets to see, and that's okay. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for what we've got coming in the future. Well, is one other thing that's coming in the future, which is search. And so I think Katie's got a picture, right? So sometimes when you're looking at data in Seagull or anywhere, oops, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We saw that needle in a haystack as an example. And so when we're looking at data, sometimes looking for data or information in the Great Lakes, we don't know where it is. and we don't really know how to find it. And so that's why we put search as an integral part of Seagull. Every time you load Seagull, you come to the landing page, there's a big search box, and maybe you don't use it every single time. Maybe you exit out, but we put it there because this is a direction of where things are going. We use search in every other aspect of our lives, whether it's where to go get a coffee or what time the dry cleaner closes or where I can find directions to take the closest ferry to get off this island. We use search for everything. And it shouldn't be any different when we're looking for data and information in the Great Lakes. So we're going to be adding more things in search. However, the reason I bring it up today is because we'd like to get your feedback on what you think the search experience in Seagull could be. Would you like to be able to search at the landing page like we have it now? Do you want to be able to search within, dive deeper? Would you like to be able to search through a web browser, maybe a different experience, and get results exposed through Seagull? There's different ways that we can expose search. There's different ways that you use search in your own lives. And we are looking for ideas on how we can better integrate search. Not only what the experience is, but what you search for. So maybe it's water temperature. Maybe it's something specific like microcystids. Or maybe it's something a little more generic like natural phrase queries. Something like, what's the water temperature in Lake Superior in the city of Duluth? Or something like that. Is it safe to bring my kids to this particular beach today? Is there E. coli in the Don River in Toronto? Stuff like that. There's all kinds of different ways to implement search, and we're looking for ideas on how we can do that. This is going to be a big activity for us as we go forward with Seagull. Well, Shelby, I think that's pretty much it. Did you have anything else to add with what you think is coming, what you know is coming down the pipeline for our users?
I don't have anything related to Seagull development specifically, but I can say that there will be some stations out over winter this year. So Seagull won't be totally hibernating. It's a little bit of a bummer for those buoys that are out in the cold. You know what they say, if you're cold, they're cold. So bring them inside. But they'll be out there hopefully sending in measurements as regularly as they can when they get connection, and hopefully not getting too beat up by the ice that happens. But that's the only other thing that I can say. But we have lots of time before we have to talk about winter. So I'm not going to rush into that.
That's right. Well, the season's not over yet. We've still got at least another month to go, maybe 2 months. And this is a good opportunity to talk about how the season's gone in terms of users on Seagull. Our goal is to get 1 million users on Seagull over time, right? Not necessarily this year, but over time, we'd like to have 1 million users, and we'd like to have 10,000 registered users as well. So we have about 2,000 registered users right now. In fact, if someone wants to create we're giving away Seagull accounts right now. We could go kind of old school, like the old radio days, where you have, if the 10th caller or maybe the 10th emailer sends us an email right now, we'll give you a free Seagull account.
Tim, remember, the Seagull accounts are free, and anyone can do it right now. They don't have to call or email anyone.
That's true. We did make it really easy to create Seagull accounts. Okay. So you don't have to be the 10th caller. Anybody can go to Seagull right now and create a free Seagull account. And if you do create a free Seagull account, not only do you get to listen to updates from us from time to time, we promise we don't overload your inbox with emails from us, but we do like to provide updates. You can set your own preferences. You can create favorite platforms. You can change units if you prefer Celsius or Fahrenheit or metric over imperial. There's lots of things to do, and more features are coming to those who have created Seagull accounts. So we're pretty excited about that. The other big thing that's changing in the future, it's not a big thing, I guess, but we're also changing how we release Seagull. So you probably haven't noticed this, or maybe you have, but we make a big deal whenever we push new features out, of course, because we're excited and we want you to be excited as well. But what's coming in the future is on it every couple of weeks, we're just going to trickle out new stuff, fixes to bugs, changes on the back end, maybe stuff you can't see, maybe some stuff you can, but we're just going to slowly release stuff over time. So it means that we're on a cadence of a 2-week development cycle. We review things at the end of the 2 weeks, and if they're good to go, then we push it out. So you'll be seeing changes to Seagull as they come, rather than waiting until we have a bunch of new features and then releasing them all at once. It's just a slightly different way, but it gets features to you faster. So we're excited about that.
That's great. Thanks, Tim. Excited to hear about all the changes coming and positive changes that we can look forward to. And also, thanks again to all the users who helped offer suggestion and people who have used Seagull to get it to where it's at today. I think that's really great.
Now, you mentioned that we've still got, the season's not over yet. So does that mean, I mean, you live closer to the Great Lakes than I do. Does that mean that you'll be like continuing to swim in Lake Michigan and Lake Huron, or just boating?
I'm hoping to dip my toes in the water before it gets to be too cold. Usually, you know, by October-ish, we start to see overturn and things get chillier, but hopefully we have a few solid weeks left of enjoying some water days.
But you don't live right on the lake. So, I mean, doesn't it seem like a big deal to pack your kids up in the car and then drive all the way to the lake so you can dip your toes in and then find out it's too cold? Like, how would you know if it's too cold or not, Shelby?
You would use Seagull, Tim. That's the joy of Seagull, is it gives you real-time data from the buoys that are reporting in. So you can see the most recent observations and get a sense of what's happening, what the wind speeds are, what the air temperatures are. So it's a really useful tool for just about anyone who wants to go out and about. So
That's great. Well, I'm glad you said that. You're always plugging Seagull, Shelby. I love it. All right. Well, you have a great month. I'll see you next time. And thanks to our viewers who are watching this video either live or on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/realgloss. Always get in touch with us, I should say, support@gloss.org, or reach out to Shelby and I anytime. We're always happy to take your emails or your calls. Thanks. And we look forward to seeing you on the next live stream. Any closing words, Shelby?
Just a really big shout out to our guest producer, Katie Russo, who is filling in. So thanks, Katie, for helping keep the show going. And thanks again, Tim, for a great show.
And thank you to all of you Seagull users out there, either new or existing. We look forward to seeing you in the app and on the live stream. We'll talk to you again next month. Bye for now.
Bye.